And welcome to BG5 Live, episode 11. Our title today is Seeking Realization, which we'll go into in a lot of depth. We have a wonderful guest here, one of my students, Frederic. He's joining us from Europe. And my co-host, Vanessa. Vanessa, how you doing today?
I am good. Thank you for asking. How are you?
Doing good. We're going to give our illustrious intro. What is BG5 Live all about?
Yeah, welcome everyone to BG5 Live, the show for BG5 and human design professionals, students, and enthusiasts who want a deeper understanding of how to apply human design to business so that they can thrive in their own careers and also support their clients in doing the same.
You do that so well. You do
Thank
that
you.
so well. That's why we always have Vanessa do it. And here's me, the Express Builder. It was my birthday on Saturday. Yay.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. I turned 25 last week. Woohoo. Just a little tidbit. So every year on your birthday, there is a similar transit. So for me, it's the 59, 55 to 2034. So every year for a week, this definition is in. And I always notice, because I have that 2034, which is, and Vanessa does too, of course, which is this express builder, but it's unconscious. So even though it's my birthday, I feel this more heightened energy every time during the course of this week. So that same is true for you on your birthday. So the top two, the core essence and the grounding on both the personality and the unconscious side, those two gates will be defined for that during time. So what's the weather for today? August 27th, 2024. We have the 63-4, which is doubt and asking questions. So if you find yourself today or this past sort of couple of days, your mind sort of going over and over and over things, that's one of the reasons why. It can be a challenge. And the 59-6 is in. So if you're feeling this desire to connect intimately or just, deeply emotionally with someone, that's part of what that transit is. And it's a 6-line day, so you're looking at everything from a higher perspective. So those are a little bit of the transits today. It's an emotional day for everyone as well. Vanessa, what's happening in the transits? What's the cosmic weather?
Yeah, so like you just said, we're finishing up the transit of the 59, which we covered in more detail in the last episode. And tomorrow at 10:58 a.m. Eastern Time, we are starting the transit of trait 40, Deliverance. And this is always going to go along with 37. So we're all going to have, whether you have this normally defined or activated in your chart or not, there's going to be some emotional energy. There's going to be some willpower, ego energy as well, because that entire channel is going to be something we all get to experience, whether you have it defined or not. Now, trait 40, Deliverance. This is the love of work. This is where the breadwinner of the family is expected to deliver. And there can be this embodiment of the love of work that is essential to survival for any community or business. And there's a great satisfaction that comes from delivering what has been promised to those that also appreciate you. So there is this definite give and take. That appreciation is necessary in order for that satisfaction to really come through. And there is that need for emotional support of others. It is what drives the connection and the collaboration with others. This is also a gate of aloneness. So having alone time is important. You do really want to find that balance between loving to work and doing that work, but also resting and having those boundaries of the rest that you need and knowing what you are willing to do and what you are willing not to do or what you are not willing to do. So there's a lot of bargaining energy in here. There is or there can be the sense of being alone, even when you are in a group of people. There's a lot of independence here. This is a willpower gate or a willpower trait. And the bargains that you make with this energy activated, and especially if you have this defined at all times in your chart, these need to be renegotiated often. It's important that they are crystal clear and that they're fair. So there is a willingness to work for the good of the whole as long as others keep up their end of the bargain. And that need for the appreciation and loyalty for the efforts and for the work that you do, the emotional support really supports you. And then you also need to be sure to take that alone time to rest. Balance between work and rest is really important, especially, well, this is important for everybody, but note, as you're going through this transit, and especially if you normally have an undefined willpower, also known in human design, it's the heart center or the ego, just making sure that you really maintain that balance. Anything you want to share about trait 40?
Yes, I happen to have it in my design. Did you know that there are 3 traits of aloneness? So it's the 40, the 33, and the 12. I happen to have 2 of those. I have the 12, and you do too.
No,
So,
I don't. I only have the 40, but I'm also a 5-1. So I really like my alone time.
yeah, man, I can hermit like no one's business, I'll tell you. So 40, I really get that idea of, this balance between work and rest, and especially for us builders, generators, that the response has to be there. So I don't know if you feel this, Vanessa, at some point I can just feel in my body, okay, I'm done. Do you feel that?
I do feel that, and I think it's a combination of the express builder, that energy resource being, okay, I'm completed for the day. And then of course, I also have a defined drive and stamina. That is the root center in human design, connected to my energy resource, the sacral center. So there is also an element of that ties into it. So it's very interesting because and of course, also I have a defined emotional intelligence solar plexus. So I have all motors defined, and the 3 that are not always on, I have defined. So it's kind of really fun to get them all aligned and into balance and really feeling in my body. Okay, we're done now. It's time to take a break.
We're done. All right, we're done with gate trait 40. We're on to the 64.
Trait 64, and this transit will start on September 3rd at 6:29 a.m. in the morning Eastern time. And this is in the thematic of the sharing abstract cognitive experiences. This is on the inspiration function or the head center. And we did say what it was on. Forgot, because this is also going to be a podcast. So I'm reminding myself to be very good about explaining the locations here. So this trait, if you're looking at the chart, at the head center of the inspiration function, it's on the left side pointing down. Abstraction, this is the pressure and mental anxiety as we're looking to make sense out of past issues, our experiences, our memories, and the mind during this time. And if you have this defined all the time in your chart, can be filled with this string of disconnected memories and images from your past that need to actually be filtered and sorted out before you can make sense of what actually happened. And you can think of this like going through a movie theater, watching sequences that are not in actual sequence, that are all sliced up. Like maybe the beginning of the movie is somewhere in the middle and the end is at the beginning. It's just trying to put together this flood of memories and trying to, really understanding what happened there. And you actually want to enjoy this mental state of confusion and not become overwhelmed by it. Because if you pressure yourself to really figure out what is going on during this time, it is just going to make it worse. And you want to just allow the clarity to come through on its own time. So be really careful about putting pressure on yourself during this transit, putting pressure on yourself if you have this trait defined or the entire strength. And also, this is in the abstract thematic, which is connected to the emotional intelligence or the solar plexus center. So there is an emotional element here, and you just want to be aware of that. This could trigger some anxiety. This could trigger some nervousness, especially if you're really pressuring yourself to try to figure things out or try to put these things in order and make sense of the past. Just allow yourself or allow that to come through in its own timing. Also, there's an element of inspiring other people with questions here, and this is where the question why lives.
Sounds like
Any
a
thought?
sounds like the little boy question. Why?
Or a first quality question as well.
Yeah. I have this defined 4 times in my design. So I associate it with confusion, wanting, and like you said, it's this pressure to make sense of things. Well, it can be really powerful. So yeah, we'll be talking more about that. Thanks, Vanessa. We're gonna move on. I don't want to talk about the 64 too much. Oh, I have to live with it day in
Well,
and
it's
day.
funny because I have my only undefined function or center in my design is the inspiration function or the head center. It's completely open, and all three of these strengths are transpersonal conditioners for me. So I don't have anything in here. So I have, whenever I talk about these, like in a sense, like I don't, like it just doesn't make sense to me. And I find it so fascinating when I talk to people that have these traits defined, how they experience them. Because for me, this is just one of those areas of the chart where I'm like, I don't know, but I have a ton of questions about it all the time.
Well, you can ask Frederic and I because
Yeah.
we can be the experts on it. All right,
Yeah.
we're gonna move on.
All right. So on September 9th at 1:36 a.m. Eastern time in the morning, we move to the other end of this strength or this channel into trait 47, the trait of realization. So now we're sitting on the conceptualization function, also known as the ajna, which is an awareness center. And this is where mental anxiety lives. And trait 47 is really about the potential awareness to make sense of that confusion from that pressure of the 64, which transit will have just finished. And there's a mental capacity to review the past and to find meaning of it, find meanings that others may have missed. And this is, again, in the previous transit in 64, we have, this cut up movie that's all over the place. This is more like the editor that is able to assemble this into something that is coherent and can create a meaningful experience out of these floods of memories and things that are coming through. There can be this feeling of always looking back to make sense of life by relating to your own personal experiences. And when you are examining these experiences, you're not going to see that full picture right away. So there is going to be some patience required. You do want to step back, trust the process, know that the cycles will eventually resolve into an aha. And again, there is this emotional process here because this thematic does connect to the emotional intelligence function or the solar plexus. And this confusion, if you put pressure on yourself to figure this out, there can be that experience of mental anxiety. So again, trusting that process, super important. And to avoid that pressure, really allow all of these possibilities that move through your mind to just move through until something really stands out. So turning this in onto yourself could turn into suffering, into anxiety, and even that feeling of oppression. So really allowing that timing, things to really unfold in their own time and trusting the process is super important here. And I have no personal experience because I don't have this trait defined. So I get to experience it through you guys and through the transits.
Yeah, I don't have this one either in my design. So we're gonna move on to the 6447. Am I taking this?
Yes.
All right. 6447, the experiential process. So Vanessa did a really wonderful job explaining both sides of it. I'll give the bird's eye view of this particular strength or channel. So the experiential process, pressure that's designed to inspire other people. If turned inward, it can show up as a pressure that creates confusion. The thing to know about this particular strength is you want to make sense of the experiences that you're having in the moment. And the challenge, as Vanessa just mentioned, is you can't make sense of, you can't come to some deep realizations until the cycle, until the experience that you're going through begins to complete itself. So that's the deep challenge of this particular strength or channel. The pressure coming from the head, from the inspiration, is to make sense of it. That's the confusion. I'm I'm having this experience. I'm confused about it. It doesn't make sense, but I feel this pressure, this overwhelming drive to figure things out. But that's not how it works, again, as Vanessa. So this is a very active mind. It's a very thinking, a lot of thinking. So I like to tell my students, so if you can, in your mind's eye, if you look at the body graph, you'll see up top the inspiration and below it. So that's the yellow diamond, and below it is the green diamond. So inspiration, conceptualization, or head ajna. Those three particular strengths or channels between the head and ajna, inspiration, conceptualization, are your thinking strengths. So there's a lot of thinking that's going on. And below that, from the conceptualization to the throat, those are verbal processing, verbal expression. So anytime you have one of those top strengths defined, you're automatically doing a lot of thinking. But based on the circuitry, you get to understand how you're thinking. So this particular strength, the 6447 experiential process, is thinking through the experiences that you have. And again, Vanessa did a great job of explaining that you see these disjointed memories. So because we call this an abstract mind, when these people tell stories, it can feel like they're jumping around all over the place. So wait, so the listener feels like, okay, I'm not following this story. And then suddenly at the end of the story, this realization will happen, like, okay, that's the message, that's the learning. So we happen to have a guest who is uniquely, he's one of my students in the foundation class. His name is Frederic, Francois. So I'd like to, let's give him a little warm welcome. Frederic, nice to have you. So Frederic, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're residing, and what you've been doing. Just give us a little sense of who you are.
Well, sure. I'm in Europe. I navigate between France and Switzerland. And well, what I do, I wouldn't say I'm a serial entrepreneur, but it looks like it. I've had many different activities, professional activities, very different, that now I understand with that gate 15. Now it makes sense, I'm out of the confusion. And well, as far as BG5 and human design is concerned, it's a revelation to me. It really, I resisted that knowledge a little bit when it was presented to me, and then I realized how accurate it is. And it's really fascinating to discover all that, and especially how I work. I mean, it's not a me thing, but it's we are our first experiment subject, and to understand how I work, and especially with that 6447, it really explains a lot, and it's a lot of acceptance of myself.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, would you mind sharing? You probably told me this already, but I'd love for our listeners to hear. How did you find human design or slash BG5? How did you come to it, and what draws you to it?
Well, what drew me to it, that's open to speculation. I'm gonna tell you something about it, but first thing, it was a friend of mine. I was practicing mediumship back then. It was 2 years ago, and that friend of mine, she told me, yeah, you should look into this. You're gonna like it. And as I said, I resisted it. I didn't want, to believe in a system that would set things in stone for me. So I didn't look at it. And then, like a few weeks after that, I went to another friend of mine who is health practitioner. And again, he told me, yeah, you should look into this. So I said, all right, that's the second time. So yeah, tell me more. And so he printed my chart, and he explained to me my public role. And then I came back home and I realized, well, yeah, it is very interesting. So and it's just interesting because I for a while I wanted to use the mediumship to get back into the corporate world. It was an idea I had. I wanted to go back there, but I wanted to bring something, to bring that kind of spiritual awareness, And I realized at a point that, yeah, it's not going to be possible for many reasons that you can understand. And now I realize that BG5 is actually the perfect tool to do that. So yeah, it's really great.
It's interesting. You're not the first person I've talked to from Europe who has this desire to bring more spirituality into the corporate sector. I don't think we think in terms of doing that in the United States, but I think Europe has a little different way of looking at it. So it's interesting. You're the second person, at least, who has said that. So what makes you think that BG5 will be this tool that really can help transform business as you know it?
Well, to me, how to say that, the cornerstone of for everybody is to know yourself.
Yeah.
And I know it's a common place to say that, and it's said everywhere, but it's true. You have to know yourself, and once you get to know yourself, then you get to, well, get everything in life pretty much. You're gonna solve many of your health problem. You want a wealth, then you're gonna have it. You want happiness. It's the road to happiness, basically. And we all want that, along with some material possessions, of course, but we all want that. And so that's also one thing I really like about BG5 is that it's really related to the material world. When you go to speak with spiritual leaders, they all teach some kind of detachment from all that. And yeah, who is detached from that, especially in the corporate world? So when you come to the corporate world, saying, all right, I know what the bottom line is. The bottom line is, well, literally is the bottom line. That's the bottom line. So when you talk like this to people, they're going to listen to you. And with that, you can introduce it's not complex, but very deep concepts about oneself, about the relationship between people. And BG5 is the tool. So,
Nice. Well said.
I have not been paid to say that. So.
I didn't send you a check beforehand.
So I have a question for you. Relating back specifically to the strength 6447, I'm so curious how your experience was looking back to before you knew anything about BG5 or human design, and then when you learned about the strength and its attributes and how it operates. I would love to hear your experience before and after and any kind of aha moments that you had.
Well, I'm still not sure. Well, I have an answer for that, but I'm still not sure if it completely related to that strength or to something else in my design. But something I noticed is that I would always find the answer to some question. It would come at some point, at some time. It would be here. And so, you can pretend I'm that genius and I can figure everything out. But, deep inside, maybe there's something else. And so I think it's related to that strength. And also, I didn't know how it worked. And even now, when you get the answer, you don't really know how. Because when the description of the strength is that you have all those images in your mind and they don't make sense, and after a while they make sense. Well, I don't really have that. Although I'm a visual and I have in my variables, I have this inner vision. So I have a lot of images, but that's not how I saw it. Maybe that's the way it works. It's still a mystery to me, but that's not exactly how it happened. But definitely, the answer, yes, this is a great trust I have in me because of that, because I know I'm going to find the answer. I know it's going to pop up somehow, someday. And that's a great confidence it instills in you.
Lovely. I also have inner vision, so I definitely relate to that. I'm curious, did you feel more of that like mental or that pressure to figure it out before you understood this and maybe tried to figure it out, or you've always just been able to let it unravel on its own time?
No, 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 no. A lot of pressure, a lot of pressure, and it's and in some ways that's a word I used in class when I referred to it, and I'm gonna use it here as well. Sometimes it's a curse because, and especially with my design, that you can see there is no outlet to it, and it just loops and loops and loops, and it's all the time. I mean, some nights I wake up, I'm right away, I'm thinking. It's already thinking about something. By the way, it's not very good for insomnia. It worsened my insomnia very much. But it's no, it's you need to learn to master it. It is some work. It is some work to learn how to channel it, really. Yeah.
Have you come up with or discovered any tools that help you with that? We'll use this term lightly, overthinking things.
Yes, yes, you need to, I need, because it's also related to other parts of my design. I need to relax as much as possible. And now that I know that I have time, I don't need to add some more pressure to get the answer. Now that I know that, this is a great tool. Just knowing that it's gonna happen, that's perfect. And specifically for me, because I do not have that outlet, I noticed a few things to make to have the energy flowing, just circulating in my body. So I do, it's like Qigong. I'm sure you all know that, Qigong work, that works very, very well, very well. That, and also, well, that's gonna sound a little odd, but foot bath with hot water, that helps to make the blood circulating, and that's also very good. It takes blood out of your head and it directs it to your feet. So that's also, it works very well. And also, well, given my design, speaking to people, like an ideal end of the day for me would be a nice discussion with somebody, a foot bath and some qigong, and then yes, my that 6447 can relax a bit.
That is so cool. I love that you're finding really, on the surface, very simple things. So I want to put a context, especially for listeners who are listening to this auditorily. So Frederic has in his design, again, if you look in your mind's eye, if you're looking at the body graph, he has the definition in the head ajna, inspiration, conceptualization, but it's not connected to the throat. So he has a totally open throat, totally open communication function. And there's one little gate trait, 43, that is sort of hanging, is pointing down towards the communication function. So here's my question. When I describe this to students or clients, anyone who has that configuration is doing a lot of mental looping. They're going through over and over and over things in their minds, the way Frederic is describing. So Frederic, you talked about this, but I'd love to hear more. Do you notice, like when you meet someone who makes that connection from your mind to your throat, does it release the pressure when you start talking about things?
Oh yes, and I can talk for maybe not for hours, but I can talk a lot and develop upon those concepts. Even if I have thought about that concept for a while, many other things will come to me as I speak about it. That's also the fascinating thing. It's when you speak about it, it's like it activates something else and brings some more material. so yes, and this is something I realized. I knew it intuitively. I knew it, but now I can see it that I'm kind of a loner. I'm a 2-5, so I like minding my own business, but I so need other people around me, just for my well-being, and especially for that to release that pressure. But I have also to control it because, as I said, I can end up talking too much, and that I'm very much aware of too. I gotta talk, yes, but not too much. So yeah.
Yeah, talking too much is one of your shadows. I'm not saying that in any way. It's just you're very aware of it. Um, it's interesting again to hear you talk that with your design. So this is really specific. So we're doing this for Frederic, but it's also he, as Frederic is explaining it, he's also sharing his keynote. So what he's basically saying, and this is in his design, is he has these experiences that he's trying to make sense of, but he has this trait, and it's kind of just hanging there. It's the 43, it's insights. He has this ability to take his experiences and turn them into these brilliant insights. So you heard him say that. So the reason I'm highlighting this in his, in what he said and in his design is it gives you a sense of how specific BG5 in human design is. So if you're contemplating learning this system, as you gain, familiarity with it, and you gain this ability to keynote, your ability to share very specific things that are incredibly accurate with someone is very powerful. And again, Frederic is highlighting that for us, both in what he says, but he's also realizing, wow, this tool is so specific, and it's so right on, and it's so amazing to work with clients. And Frederic is only in his second semester. I mean, he's a superstar student for sure, but he's learning and he's able to translate it both for himself, but also people he works with and sees. So it's really cool. Vanessa, do you
That's
have
awesome.
any? Yeah, go ahead, Vanessa.
So also that observation you're talking about the aloneness here with that 2-5 public role. I'm also notice you do have two of the traits of aloneness defined in your chart, trait 40, which you also have in quality 2, and trait 33, which you have in quality 1. So that need for aloneness with those traits and that public role can really, there's like that extra emphasis and that whole synthesis of how we often have multiple aspects in our design that can point in a certain direction. So I find it really interesting when you were talking about that need for alone time. And then, of course, also coupled with the need to be around people. And I do want to say for those that are listening, Frederic is a classic builder or a generator in human design language. He also has a strength 515 and 5710 in his chart defined. So for those that are listening, and in case you thought he was a mental advisor or projector, he is actually a classic builder or a generator.
He's a rock star.
That too.
Frederic, if someone wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that? How can people find you?
Well, I'm on my I'm about to set up a couple of websites for my activities. So far it's gonna be, I guess, through you if they want to contact me. Well, I have well, maybe I can give an email address. Can I do that now, or
Yeah, go ahead, please.
yeah, well, so it's Frederic, my first name, .f@me.com, me.com. So don't hesitate.
Frederic.f@me.com. So you got a good handle there. Frederic, it was so good to have you. Thank you for joining us. This was really good. I loved hearing the way that you're sort of so self-aware in your process. And I'm imagining that the clients who work with you are going to really benefit from your self-awareness. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for being here with us. Really appreciate it.
It was nice.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, everyone. So we'll be back. Vanessa, when are we back? When's our next session?
Well, I won't be here.
Oh,
We
yeah.
have a special guest host. Huck Self will be here with Mike, and I believe it is September 10th.
September 10th. So we're back on September 10th, everyone. Vanessa will be off
I will
somewhere.
be hanging out with a friend who's in town for just 4 days, so I am taking that week off.
Yes, that's very exciting. All right, everyone. Thank you. Have a great Labor Day if you're in the United States. Everyone else, enjoy the end of the summer, and we'll see you sometime in the beginning of fall. Bye, everyone.
Bye.